We should be driving the innovation and inspiration.
Yeah.
Our clients want it. That's what they want. They don't want to be bored to tears with algorithms. They want to be inspired with the opportunities of the future. You know, they don't want to be petrified by everybody talking about redundancies and job losses. They want to talk about productivity and growth and how AI can enable that to happen.
Hi, I'm Tom Denford and I'm in New York.
And I'm David Indo and I'm in London.
I spent a decade as a global executive for agencies like WPP, Omnicom and Publicis.
And I spent a decade as a senior marketeer managing media for powerful brands like Coca-Cola and Nike.
15 years ago, we came together to create IDComms, the world's first specialist media advisory and analytics consultancy. Today, the company spans 14 time zones, and we serve dozens and dozens of iconic brands around the world.
This is our show Media Snack, where we share our bite-sized expert view on how procurement and marketing leaders are winning in media today.
We appreciate you tuning in, and we're excited to dive into today's show.
Tom, welcome back. You haven't changed at all
Cannes
since your trip to Cannes.
At all, no. It's totally normal. No, nothing new. Just back from Cannes. It was a really good week, actually. It was one of the best. I think the best Cannes that I've had personally. Maybe that's because I did it without you this time.
Maybe that's the insight. But this is why this conversation, I think, is so insightful for me. Normally, we do Cannes together when we do it. And we kind of share that experience, and it's fairly busy and fraught, and we debrief on the way home. But you went solo this time, and kind of you kind of crammed the 3 or 4 days with loads and loads of meetings. And you and I haven't yet had a proper kind of download on that. And so I'm just curious as to how you found this year. What, if any, there were the kind of key themes coming through. And I'm just going to kind of probe one or two little questions based on the perspective if I was a client. Having not gone to Cannes this year, and see if you can add a little bit of color to that. So how was
it was busy and hot, which is what you'll probably hear from everybody. So it was one of the hottest Cannes, and it just kind of made made for quite an intense week. There are, and again, like we're debriefing here, like live on YouTube, but there are, as I've mentioned to some of the team internally, I think there were 3 things that pulled out. I think that's traditional, kind of like these are the themes, but these are themes for for a marketer's view, because we work directly with the marketers, and it's really through a media lens. And Cannes, of course, is about a lot more than that. And there's really 3 major cohorts at Cannes. There's the kind of the creativity, there's the work, the awards, and that's in the Palais. And I didn't go in the Palais this year. But the feedback was that the quality of work is really good. I did get I had a lot of conversations with people that were actually viewing the work or judging the work, good quality work. Yeah. Then there's the kind of the sales part of Cannes, which is really dominated these days by ad tech, and ad tech do all the yachts and take over all the kind of big outdoor boards and all that kind of stuff, and having lots of parties. And then there's media, and media used to be a kind of darling of Cannes, and it's kind of been nudged into now third place really by dominance of ad tech. I mean, ad tech turns up with more money ultimately. So the media agencies are still making a good showing, and all the leadership was there, but they're not the heartbeat of Cannes that they were maybe 5 years ago. Maybe a little bit more on the fringes and a bit more humble perhaps, but they're there, and it's such an important time for media agencies. And I managed to meet with most of the global leadership of the major agency networks and major independents. And so that's the lens that we'll kind of just talk about Cannes through. Okay, so I'm not judging the creativity or the ad tech.
Brilliant.
The first thing was more of a general observation, and that is that there was a vibe in Cannes, a tangible vibe in Cannes, which I actually personally quite appreciated. And it's these things all start with A, but it literally is an appreciation. Okay, so there was a kind of vibe at Cannes. It was a bit like you'll remember, because we're a similar generation. Like if you were around at the turn of the millennium, you remember that kind of disco 2000 feeling where we were thinking the world might end, and so that New Year's Eve was just bonkers. And we literally partied like 1999, and it was that feeling that whole year, that summer was just kind of crazy. The world was going a bit bonkers, and I think it was that same feeling. There's a bigger macroeconomic social challenges that are making people a bit nervous, and then being on the Côte d'Azur and hanging out in the south of France and drinking wine and just sitting in the sunshine was just a moment, and lots of conversation was just appreciating what we have created. Really, actually, objectively looking at Cannes beyond the glitz and the glamour and the spectacle, is that it is actually something quite special and something to be treasured, and especially this feeling that it's not going to last forever. This is not going to last forever. Right. At some point, there's going to be the last great Cannes, and this could be it. So there was that. there was a lot of that kind of talk, and I think people just appreciating, appreciating each other, appreciating the business that we work in, appreciating the magic of these kind of things.
Yeah. Was it just on that? Was there a degree of optimism? I know you talked perhaps about this being the last great Cannes, but was there generally a degree of hope within the industry and optimism and belief moving forward, given what you've said about the macroeconomic and
it's a really good question.
Climate we operate?
I mean, secretly and privately, everybody's a bit nervous and a bit pessimistic, but you cannot turn up a Cannes with any kind of pessimism. It thrives on giving everybody that little dose of optimism and that shot of hope. I mean, pessimism is just not allowed on the Croisette. I mean, that's one true thing. And I think we'll come on to talk about some of the other things, one of which obviously AI. There was pessimism historically around that kind of stuff, and I think it's turning into kind of more optimistic view. So, but that's the first thing, just to kind of ground Cannes. There was a vibe this year, and I think that vibe was appreciation, which I myself appreciated. Right. I didn't feel slightly disgusted with myself as having gone to Cannes. You do come back sometimes and you think, but I did come back thinking, it's really good. It was actually very good and energizing. And I think, long may it continue, because I think it's an institution and we need,
I remember going a few years ago and it felt very indulgent. And then we went, I think, just after COVID and it felt more balanced. You didn't feel so greedy and well, that's good. Brilliant. Sense of optimism. Lovely.
So the second day is agencies, and the idea really that agencies is so fascinating. I mean, I spent most of my time in Cannes, of all the different things that I did in Cannes, more than 50% of it was talking to agency leadership. Really a good opportunity for me to get a real temperature check of how the agency management's feeling, and also hear firsthand better quality updates on the strategies of all the different agency groups and what they're doing. And the general consensus, I would say, is that there is a nervousness around agencies. And again, I'm talking here about the media agency parts of the media parts of the holding companies or media agency independents. There's a nervousness because there's a lot of change happening. AI is one of those factors that we'll talk about. But as we've reported on a lot, there's change amongst the agency landscape. That triggered on the 9th of December with the announcement that Omnicom wanted to acquire IPG. Some pretty dramatic surgery that's going on at WPP. Further acquisitions that are likely, and we'll touch on that a little bit. I know we're going to do. I think we're putting out over the summer a very special episode where we actually really pick apart the agency landscape and start to make some kind of 3-5 year predictions like we've done in the past. We're going to revisit that idea, which was really interesting. But for now, let's suffice to say that we're now the week after Cannes. It looks like the Omnicom and IPG merger is continuing to be en route to complete, probably in September or into Q4 of 2025. Yeah, and that will really create 3 giants in the world of media. Omnicom, Publicis, and WPP. Yeah, and the 3 of them will dominate as a marketplace. And we'll talk in another episode about how their underlying business models are starting to kind of look very similar, and they're turning potentially into sellers of media as much as they are buyers of media. If you look at their media assets, they're kind of a separate pack, and it's fairly visible in Cannes, but tucked away more in the corners these days. I mean, Omnicom had a very shiny, mirrored covered little installation right next to the Palais and in a beautiful place. And I hosted a panel within that talking about the integration and interviewing the leaders of the different Omnicom companies. WPP are like literally the other end of the beach. They're right down the other end. And so you have to kind of make a journey to go to WPP. So they kind of intentionally put themselves on the fringes a little bit. I think they used to be outside the Martinez. If you've been to Cannes, you know that nobody goes beyond Martinez, right? Unless you're doing something really, really interesting. So that's kind of the end. That's the end of the Croisette as far as the Cannes Festival is concerned. And WPP was always the destination. You would go there, right? Because, Martin Sorrell will be on the roof or Mark Reed will be on the roof and there'll be something interesting going on. Now it feels like that's a little bit fringe. The heartbeat is not at the end of the Croisette. And WPP's beach, they were obviously using that to reposition their Group M as WPP Media. I know you had some questions about that, actually.
Yeah, given what was announced just before Cannes with Mark Reed stepping down, the fact that the week before or the fortnight before they launched WPP Media and sunsetted Group M, I would have thought that the team at WPP would be going hard at Cannes, clearly defining what the new proposition was, convincing or reassuring all of their clients that they were in a better shape than they were before Group M. How was their PR machine? How was that kind of proposition really kind of amplified within an environment where, for the only time in the year, you've got all of the big hitting clients, all of the big stakeholders, all there at the same time, and all of the trade bodies and all of the consulting companies and everybody else. How noisy were they in terms of leveraging that opportunity to?
We talked before Cannes, and I thought that would, it's a perfect platform, as you say, for them to dominate that message. It's very hard. Even if WPP, it's very hard to dominate Cannes in terms of a message. But I thought they would be bigger and bolder. I went to their kind of beach pavilion a few times, and it just wasn't as busy as in my head. I thought it would be something like mobbed. It would be really like a kind of heartbeat of what was going on there. It's incredibly difficult. You're right next to Spotify Beach and Google and Gemini, and YouTube had a whole creator set up there. And then you've got, Dentsu and others and Meta. And the competition is hot. So it's very hard to attract people's attention. It's really not the place to get across a repositioning message. I think you just have to be visible and show up. I've said publicly, and we've discussed before. I've thought the communications of the repositioning of WPP Media and why it's necessary and what its purpose is, and how marketers should understand it. I thought it'd been a bit clumsy, from the campaign, and then Mark Reed stepping down right in the middle of that, which clearly wasn't scheduled as part of the comms plan, although they're claiming that he was always intending to step down before or announce it before Cannes, which seems like, I'm not sure whether that's really the right thing to do. But he was still there. He was still at Cannes. So that clouded, I think, them landing that message. And there was nothing really going on in Cannes that, to me, that in itself clarified it. Now, I had as I'm sure a whole bunch of other people did, but I had a privileged position in the sense because I got a couple of hours with the WPP Media leadership to go and really understand what they're calling their Vision 30, which is the kind of 4 pillars of WPP Media and what they think how the business is going to be operating in 5 years' time, which is obviously very AI enabled. That's the core to the story. And we did a long demo of updates to WPP Open, the platform, which has brought together some really good technology assets. So the foundation is of a story there, but it doesn't really land at Cannes. And I think it's very hard to see that they created any kind of new necessarily new understanding of what it's about. There's a long, long way to go, I think, to demonstrate to the market what's the purpose and point of WPP Media beyond what it means to WPP.
Yeah.
It makes sense for the company. Still not quite sure. I don't think the wider market is not sure the benefit to the brands.
Yeah. Were they very well represented there? In terms of the big agency holding companies, were there any holding company that was more visible in terms of its numbers and in terms of its energy?
No, I mean, they're all there. They've all kind of done the same thing historically. I always think that the best position in Cannes that is a little plot, but that Havas Cafe is very visible. I mean, it's just in such a perfect spot, right outside the Mondrian, right in the middle of the Croisette. And, we've been before, but their kind of wrap-up party on the Thursday night is just bonkers. I don't mean wild bonkers, but it's just, it's just, I said to somebody, it's like, everybody's like smoking. It's just weird. It's like kind of going back in time. Like, it's very French. Okay, the whole Frenchness comes out, and we're in France, and so I think anyone who's French in the industry just makes a beeline for it. It's just got an amazing vibe, and the music blasts, and it's all like Daft Punk, and everybody's just happy that they got to the end of the week. And that to me, like, really crystallized and epitomized just that vibe. That vibe, like we were there at the end. It was that kind of that feeling of appreciation. So that was nice. So I think they always show up well. Everybody was there.
So apart from the Havas end of Cannes party, any other really kind of memorable?
I'll tell you what, one was good that we haven't spoken about, but whilst we were in Cannes, I think on the Wednesday afternoon, news broke that a fine gentleman called Dimitri Maix, who's the global CEO of Initiative, one of the IPG media agencies, had been recruited by Accenture Song. So Accenture Song is, if you remember, is like their marketing services division of Accenture, to lead what they call the marketing practice, and that includes media, potentially. So it was one of many stories that were kind of breaking news. And anyway, I got a ping from Dimitri to say, the story's leaked out. Clearly, IPG were not super happy with the timing. And he was like, basically, I've got a bit more free time than I anticipated now. Do you want to have lunch? And I was like, yeah, okay, great. So that was nice. So we got to, I got to kind of congratulate Dimitri. I said to him, you now have the best job in media. And the most interesting job in media. Whether it'll turn out to be the best job in media, potentially it could be, but the most interesting job in media right now, anywhere, because his job is going to be, he'll join Accenture at some point later this year, and his job is going to be deciding if Accenture step into media again or further into media.
So they tried, right? They tried. We're going to, I'm sure, do an entire episode on this, but they tried with their programmatic offering. I don't even know whether that's still operational. I don't know.
Accenture Song is a big business, and they don't make a big song and dance about it. Pretty invisible in Cannes, right? And you think this is I think they're talking about. I mean, this is a billions of dollars of revenue business. This is not a small agency business. This is huge.
Yeah.
They played in media a little bit, but they really just did. At the time, they were saying they're only going to do digital, and they were really only doing kind of. It wasn't just biddable, but it wasn't search and social particularly, but it's programmatic buying and video. And there was speculation. We speculated at the time, and we should probably link to an episode that we did called Accenture Move Their Tanks on the Lawn, because we really thought they would be a threat to the holding companies. I think this is the moment. I mean, Dimitri's going to make that decision with the business. Does Accenture become the fourth part of that three massive agency?
Yeah. And is he looking forward to the challenge? Did he give you any previews on any?
He did. I'm not going to put them on YouTube, but he's got some thoughts. It'll be interesting to kind of follow what he does. We'll be looking at that very closely. But if Accenture step into media buying,
very good,
and that will be very divisive for the industry. I mean, people are saying, no, it's never going to happen. Why would they do that? They don't want to take on the complexity of media buying. But also, Accenture is probably the only company around that could help those next 4 figure out how to consolidate and kind of survive in the red ocean challenge that they've got. And also is not encumbered by the legacy business model of those top 3 agencies. And so could provide a very compelling differentiation. We're going to unpack this on our next episode. But that was, I think, that was a very interesting, it felt like, it was nice to see Dimitri, but a moment in time, because it's sort of like what he does now in the next 6 to 12 months is going to have a huge impact on the agency landscape and on the fortunes of those big holding companies. So yeah, that was interesting and just nice to have a kind of little insight into that as it was breaking.
How prominent and positive was the conversations around AI?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the third A. Croisette. So we've done, an appreciation and agencies, and the third is really AI. It was unavoidable, and of course, everybody's talking about it. The big, again, was just a feeling about AI at Cannes. 2 years ago, there was, I would say, pessimistic speculation. Everybody was slightly fearful and trying to big it up like AI, we're in charge of it. But everyone was just kind of blagging it, not really sure exactly how that was going to land and fearful that was going to just come in and just change everything. And everybody felt they were behind the curve and all this kind of stuff. 2 years worth of progress now is that there is a kind of practical application starting to form. And so there was a confidence around AI. It was interesting because we were like, Cannes going to continue to exist in the world of AI? i.e. people in relationships and trust are still foundational to what's going on. So I think we've kind of got over that fear that all marketing is going to be replaced by algorithm. There was some very, very good displays and conversations of AI and its impact. I would summarize it to say that AI's impact on creative and production is really exciting. Everybody who's involved in that is actually trying to temper expectations, kind of saying we're not there yet, but we're starting to see some really amazing things happening, and that's exciting for marketers. So the creative and production side, exciting. The media side, as is typical with media, we take something which is really exciting and we make it really, really boring. So it's I kind of feel a bit sorry for some of the media agencies that are trying to pitch their AI tools or media companies trying to pitch AI tools is just kind of exhausting. It is like, oh my god, we're just making this way, way, way complicated. Where's the really exciting dramatic bit of this? Because creativity is always something. I mean, it lives in Cannes. That's probably what people are looking for. But to do AI media demonstrations in Cannes, and I did a few of those, and it just feels like we're filling it with buzzwords, and it does feel like an AI optimization exercise that is. I mean, maybe that's the thing. Maybe they just want to bore us to death, so we'll just hand over the money and say, fine, whatever, show me the outcomes. I mean, I think that's the ideal dream for a media agency, isn't it? It's like, okay, we don't care anymore. And so you're bored into submission. But that would be my summary. The creative, exciting, media, AI, exhausting. And I think we've got to do better in media to find the excitement and the opportunity that can parallel.
I know exactly what you mean, but I get so frustrated. Media is still at the eye of the storm when it comes to marketing communications. We should be driving the innovation and inspiration. Yeah. Our clients want it. That's what they want. They don't want to be bored to tears with algorithms. They want to be inspired with the opportunities of the future. They don't want to be petrified by everybody talking about redundancies and job losses. They want to talk. They want to talk about productivity and growth and how AI can enable that to happen.
So exactly. Anyway, you're right to be exasperated because that's what it feels like. But that's a journey that the media side of Cannes or the media side of the industry has got to grapple with. Like, what are the interesting stories? What's motivating? How can we be inspired around that stuff? And there's potential to do that, but it's just not on display yet. It's still on PowerPoint. That's the problem. Yeah. Whereas creativity, you can just see it's got this electric buzz around. Like, okay, this is going to be really exciting. So maybe next year we'll try and make media more exciting. I think that for ourselves, for our own sanity, anyone who wants to join that fight, by the way, we want to make media exciting at Cannes again next year. So we laid down the gauntlet for that, and that's a big hill to climb.
Yeah, good. Anyway, mate, thank you very much. Thank you for that insight. Excellent summary.
Yes,
I feel like I was.
You look like you were there. Everybody said, "Where's David Indo? He's so Cannes like." And I think what they mean by that is that my pasty white legs are not welcome in Cannes. But David Indo is just looks so Cannes. You look like you live there.
It's high.
Yeah.
It's high blood pressure.
Glad you enjoyed my recap. I was leaving these little postcards. You've probably seen these, like these little postcards all around Cannes. If you want one of these, you can actually go onto idcomms.com/omnicom, because it's really the matrix. In fact, you can see I've got one up here. I was talking everybody through this, guide little path of how to navigate agency landscape in 2025, 2026. And we made them like little postcards that you could take away in Cannes. So, but the summaries of what we're talking about, these 3 A's, the appreciation, the agencies, and AI, you'll find in a blog post. We'll link that down below where I discuss those 3 themes. So take those away, share that, and please, as always, we really appreciate your comments on this. So if you took other things away from Cannes, maybe that we've missed, or you have a view on those 3 things that you want to share with us, we'd love to hear. And please, thank you for following, liking, and subscribing.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Media Snack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review and remember to like and subscribe on YouTube.
And we love hearing your comments, so please don't be shy in the comments section below.
That's it for now. See you next time on Media Snack.